So there's this term used, I guess, like primarily in academia. I don't know if it's used in like the news or anything, of a post-truth world. And this is basically just a way to refer to the fact that like we kind of don't have much of a consensus reality anymore. I think the most obvious place of this is if you look at like debates, right? Like if you go back and watch any debate from like the 1950s or anything like that, most of the time is going to be spent like, okay, we know this, let's discuss perspective on it. It's a lot of like waxing philosophical in between, I don't know, what do you call the two people in a debate? The debaters, I guess. It's a lot of like debating ideology and like perspective and all these things, right? Where do we go from these facts? Now though, if you watch any sort of debate, I'd say like at least 90% of the runtime is just like, okay, what are the facts? I think a big place where you see this in those like Jubilee videos, which are the most unproductive thing ever. I think those are the funniest videos. How like they always start the Jubilee videos like, oh my God, we're gonna come here, we're gonna find the middle ground between these two issues. And then the two people come to discuss the issue, and like they don't even agree on what the word, like they don't even think the sky is blue. Like one guy's like the sky is blue and the other's like the sky is red. And they're like what do you want them to do with that? It's all just debating what's the truth now, right? And you know, I guess there's a lot of like political or whatever ramifications from all this, but I was thinking about it more from like, or rather what I want to come here and do is think about it more from like this idea of like, the idea of truth has always been kind of shaky. And I think in many ways you could view this post-truth world more as a return to form than anything. Because, and I was thinking about this mainly because I was reading about Thomas Hobbes, right? If you guys know Thomas Hobbes, famous philosopher who wrote the Leviathan, that's, I want to say, like, probably his most famous thing. I don't know about you guys, in 5th grade, I read, like, Hobbes and Locke, like, some of Thomas Hobbes, some of John Locke. You guys might have done that too, maybe you know from there. But he's basically a philosopher who said, like, truth is kind of going to be subject to your own perspective. And he was doing this in opposition of Francis Bacon. Some of you, if you're into science, might recognize that Francis Bacon is the guy who came up with the scientific method, right? And the scientific method originally was like this way to interpret the world around you. Like he came up with it as a way of like, how can we come up with what is reality? How can we come up with a system to figure out our base principles? By the way, for a guy in like, oh my God, was it 1500, 1600? Like whenever these guys were around, really great guesswork there. Like imagine coming up with the scientific method, which is essentially, I mean, our way to like do everything. Like we learned that now as science. So great guesswork from that, like Francis Bacon, like amazing job, Francis, like great work. I can presume he also maybe came up with a very famous cut of meat by the name. I don't know if that's true, but more great work there, if that is him. But basically, like Hobbes looks at this and he's like, actually maybe not great guesswork, Francis Bacon, depending on where we go with this, right? Because Hobbes looked at it and was like, no, like this is BS. Like there's no way that you can come up with a consensus because like we all have our different perspectives. He's basically looking at it and going like, this, you know, looking at like the scientific method of you examine, you come up with a hypothesis, you experiment, you test it, and then you try and repeat that, right? Like all these things. I don't know the steps exactly. It's been a while since I was in school, but like that's the gist of it. Hypothesis, experiment, research is somewhere in there, right? I don't know. He's going like, how can you even say, like you saying as an objective fact, this color is blue, is going to be subject to all the colors around it, because if they're all other shades of blue, then you're going to say this color is, you know, what's the navy, right? But if it's surrounded by shades of yellow, then you're just going to say it's blue, right? You have to remember, like, obviously now we look at that and we're like, okay, but like, you know, we would look at the light waves and figure out like exactly what the hexadecimal code of this color is or whatever. Like we obviously have much better, more rigorous ways of testing these things now. Back then though, in 1500, I mean, Hobbes is basically just correct, right? That like when you don't have other science to build on, like you using this scientific method, maybe not to discover the facts of like what bacteria was, but to come up with solving everyday problems and getting your own consensus reality, and coming up with your own basic like principles of what's going on around you. What are these things made of? Hobbes has a really great point that like science is always going to be very much subject to what your basic experiences are, right? And I think like, again, I want to remove this conversation from the context of modern science, because I'm not trying to make a statement on science, right? Because I know science is real. Like, we know in this debate here, Francis Bacon was just correct, because using his method, we made up, I mean, like civilization now, right? I don't think it's gotten us pretty far. I think we can say that in this debate, time has proven that Francis Bacon's method was correct. I think within this, though, there's like kind of a almost a hint that gives us a look at like the post-truth world we're in right now, right? Because this is exactly what people say with science now. It's the same idea as like if you ever watch Andrew Tate debate, right? I hate to mention him, but I think he's somebody that is a huge perpetuator of this. He's going, like when they'll say they're debating something about like misogyny, right? This is a big debate I've seen him do, where he's like, they're like, okay, the data proves women are better drivers than men. Andrew Tate will always retort that, going like, no, I've gotten in a car crash with a woman before. Obviously, the truth, like, that doesn't matter. Like, he could have gotten in a car crash with 10 women in a row. That doesn't change the fact that, like, on a broad scale, the data says a different thing, right? Like, he's just still objectively wrong. But there's always going to be this battle between our own perspective and the world around us of, like, what the truth is. This is a big thing for me when I was learning science in school with, like, chemistry. I was really bad at chemistry in school just because, like, I could not conceptualize the world was made of atoms. I still can't. Like, I still kind of don't buy it, to be honest. Like, you're telling me everything. Like, look at this canvas right now. Look at the brush moving on it. Look at the paints being spread. You're telling me all this is tiny little dots if I look deep enough. Like, I know it is. I'm not actually against chemistry. But, like, I just hear that and I'm like, there's utterly no way that's true. And I feel like, you know, chemistry, I don't think about much. It doesn't actually, well, it does affect my everyday life because, you know, technically everything's chemistry, I guess. But, like, me being like, this makes no sense to my brain doesn't change the fact that, like, I'm gonna wake up in the morning, go to work, put on clothes, and, like, take a shower and, like, live my life, you know? But once it comes to, like, science directly affecting people's lives, right? Like, when this was a huge thing, obviously, during, I don't know if you can say this on YouTube, because I've gotten a lot of videos actually restricted from talking about this. The era of 2020, right? If you look at that, and, like, science is directly impacting your lives, and the TV says something different, like the science community says something different than what you're experiencing, you're gonna have a lot more of a visceral reaction, right? And, like, in this way, science has always existed secondary to humans' experiences. Not so much because humans are more correct than science. I would say it's probably the opposite. I don't know. I'm kind of a science hater too, though, so I do like the idea of, you know, me being like, no, I'm right and everyone else is wrong. Like, I kind of love that idea, but objectively, like, science has got it right. Like, you know, if we didn't have science, we'd be nowhere. So, like, but let's say we do go down a path where, like, the people who are against science win, kind of looking like we're going that way in some ways, right? I mean, think of how many people, I saw somebody yesterday saying they sun gaze. Like, that's a new thing. They're like, if I stare into the sun every day, it'll give me energy. Like, in a lot of ways, I mean, like, nobody trusts science anymore, it seems like. At least from where I'm sitting. Actually, that's hyperbole. A lot of people still trust science. So many people don't, though. Like, it's valid now to be like, I don't believe science. And people will be like, okay, like, if that's your perspective, you know, that was never a thing a couple years ago. If you are one of those people, DM me. I'd love to ask you some questions, actually, or comment. I can ask you the questions in the comment. So I don't know why I asked you to DM me. But, like, let's say these people do win. In the future, the only science that's going to get out is the science that goes along with the authorities' perspective, right? Like, let's say for an example, Andrew Tate was in charge of the whole world. I also don't know if you can say his name on YouTube, actually, which that's kind of BS. Like, you know, I'm not, whatever. Because wasn't he like banned off everything or whatever? Where's he now? What's he doing these days? I have no idea. But either way, right? Let's say he gets in charge of the whole world. It only makes sense that he's gonna look at the studies coming out about like driving records and be like, no, I'm changing these. And maybe he'll earnestly think they're wrong. I don't think that's true. I think he's just a bad person, but maybe he will. Like, the whole idea of you putting science up against everyone's day-to-day lives is really going to annoy some people when it goes against things that affect them every day. Like, let's take it away from like these giant issues for a second and just take it like Paint&Talk, right? Let's say I'm looking at the canvas and I go like, this is gray, this is a darker gray, and this is black, right? If you were to tell me, like, let's say that like I've worked with these colors a good amount, like I kind of know the paints on my palette at this point. We're on day 98. Shout out to all you for making that happen. It's awesome, right? If someone were to come along and make like a YouTube video where they're like, I did a thorough study of the colors Max Dice uses in Paint&Talk. This is blue, this is darker blue, and this is the darkest navy blue. I'd be like, yeah, no, you're wrong. So I can't like there's always, I feel like, gonna be that battle between human experience and like what we're actually being told. And in that regard, I wonder, is truth possible? Like, and I don't mean truth as in terms of like, you know, is science real? I don't mean it like that, because like it is, right? Like, you know, even if I don't believe in atoms, like they're real or whatever, right? Like they made that bomb out of them. But wait, this building's kind of getting a wonky shape now. But I don't mean is science real? Is truth possible in terms of like a scientific approach? I mean, is truth possible as in like, will we ever 100% be like, no, this is the truth? Like, I don't know. I actually don't know if that's possible. I think this could be as simple as like scientists just need a new spokes guy. Like, call me up, guys. If you scientists watching this, if you guys are like, man, we need a strapping young man to come along and just like tell everyone like about the cool stuff we're doing, because they're not buying it and they're all sun gazing and all they're seeing is Instagram reels about how bad seed oil is for you, and now the whole world is getting affected by that, and you're like, we just need a chill guy to come paint, talk, and tell everybody about our new discoveries. I'll do it. As long as you're not a chemist, I'll do it, because I don't believe in chemistry, but as long as you're not a chemist, I 100%, I got you. I think it could be that simple, you know? I think if we like just show everyone, the other thing too is like, I feel like nowadays science is so much harder to explain to people. Like, it's hard to explain the truth of that everything's made up of little dots. I know I gotta stop with this, but like, that's a little bit harder to explain than germs, right? Like, science has gotten more complicated. But, you know, call me up. I can make some fun diagrams. I think color is a big thing that a lot of science textbooks start missing once you get into more complex science. So I think it could be as simple as just coloring in all those diagrams, and we'll be back to consensus reality. So, yeah, this was just a little ramble about truth. Let me know your thoughts down below, your perspective on this. Do you think truth is possible, or do you think like our own brains are always going to get in the way of that? Also, who you got, Francis Bacon or Thomas Hobbes? You know, it's a tough debate. I think I'll have to go with Francis Bacon. I think he has a pretty strong resume, but Hobbes definitely wasn't wrong with some of the things he was saying. I feel like he's slowly being proven true in a lot of ways. Maybe not in the way he wanted to be, but he is. This is the painting. This is actually something I mentioned doing a couple, oh my god, it might have been like almost 10 paint talks ago now, where I said I wanted to do like a more simple building. This is that more simple building, perhaps too simple actually. It's literally just a gray brick, which is what I wanted to do. This might be all the way here at Paint&Talk 97, ladies and gentlemen. This might be the first time that this is exactly what it looked like in my head. And I did it purposefully this way, and I executed everything the way I imagined. Upside of this, maybe that's progress. Downside though, I mean, this is just a gray block. So yeah. Check this out over on Instagram. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, and we really messed up there, guys. We really messed up there. Until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint and Talk episode 98. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all. 2 days to 100, everybody.